The psychology of human attraction is a complex web of emotional undercurrents, neurological sparks, and ancient evolutionary drives. While people have mastered the art of verbal communication, allowing them to disguise their thoughts, mask their hesitations, and project an aura of casual indifference, the human body remains an unfiltered mirror of our truest desires. When a man develops deep feelings for someone, a quiet war breaks out between his conscious mind and his autonomic nervous system. He might desperately try to play it cool, maintain a detached composure, and keep his cards hidden close to his chest to protect his vulnerability. However, biology almost always wins. The human brain is hardwired to betray its secrets through a series of involuntary physical reflexes, microexpressions, and behavioral shifts that are completely beyond conscious control. These uncontrollable reactions are driven primarily by the limbic system, the ancient emotional center of the brain that manages our survival instincts and primal attachments. The moment a man is exposed to someone he is intensely drawn to, his brain triggers a cascade of chemical messengers, including dopamine, oxytocin, and adrenaline. This internal chemical storm immediately overrides the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for logical planning and calculated behavior. As a result, his body begins to speak a language of its own. His eyes might dilate to drink in more visual information. His vocal cords may shift to a deeper resonance to project security, or his hands might anxiously fix his clothing in a subconscious effort to appear flawless. These are not calculated moves designed to flirt. They are raw, organic reactions to an overwhelming emotional stimulus. For anyone trying to decipher where they stand with a specific man, understanding these involuntary cues is incredibly empowering. It moves the conversation away from the confusing realm of mixed verbal signals and places it firmly in the territory of objective biological fact. A man can carefully craft a text message, control the words he speaks, or fake a polite smile, but he cannot force his pupils to expand, stop his cheeks from flushing, or prevent his body from automatically mirroring your posture. By shifting your focus away from what he says and paying close attention to these hidden, uncontrollable behaviors, you can bypass his defenses entirely and read his truest intentions clearly. The following 15 signs represent the definitive, biological blueprint of male attraction. They are the subtle, fleeting, and deeply ingrained habits that occur when a man's subconscious mind completely takes the wheel in your presence. When observed individually, these signs offer compelling clues. When multiple behaviors begin to cluster together, they provide undeniable proof that he is profoundly drawn to you. He may not be ready to voice his feelings out loud, but his body is already shouting them from the rooftops. Let's dive deep into the fascinating science behind these 15 uncontrollable physical signs that prove he likes you. The dilated pupil reflex. The human body possesses a complex network of involuntary physiological responses, controlled by the autonomic nervous system, and eye behavior is one of the hardest to fake. When a man looks at someone he is deeply attracted to, his brain releases a sudden surge of dopamine and norepinephrine. This chemical cocktail triggers the sympathetic nervous system, causing his pupils to dilate significantly, regardless of the room's lighting conditions. Known in psychology as mydriasis, this reflex is an ancient biological mechanism designed to let in more visual information about a desired subject. He cannot consciously expand or contract his pupils. It is a direct window into his subconscious fascination. When you notice his eyes widening and softening simultaneously during a conversation, it is physical proof that his brain is highly stimulated by your presence, making this subtle shift one of the most honest and uncontrollable indicators of attraction. Continuous subconscious mirroring of your actions. Subconscious mirroring is a powerful behavioral sign driven by the brain's mirror neuron system. When a man feels a deep, instinctual connection or a strong desire to build rapport with you, his body will automatically copy your physical posture, gestures, and speech patterns without his conscious awareness. If you lean back and cross your legs, he will likely do the same moments later. If you take a sip of your drink or rest your chin on your hand, his body will naturally sync up with yours. This behavioral mimicry is evolution's way of establishing safety, comfort, and mutual understanding between two people. He is essentially sending a nonverbal signal that says, I am like you and I am in harmony with you. Because this happens entirely on an unconscious level, it serves as a glaring green light that his focus is entirely locked onto you, the directional foot alignment toward you. Body language experts frequently analyze the lower body because people are generally highly aware of their facial expressions, but completely forget about their feet. The direction in which a man points his feet is a highly reliable, uncontrollable indicator of where his true interest lies. Even if he is engaged in a conversation with someone else across the room, or trying to act completely nonchalant, his feet will almost always point directly toward the person he desires most. This biological response is tied to our primal orientation. Instincts. The body naturally aligns itself toward the ultimate objective, or the source of greatest comfort and attraction. If his torso is turned away, but his feet are anchored firmly in your direction, his subconscious mind is prioritizing you above everything else in the environment. It is a subtle, hidden compass pointing straight toward his unspoken feelings. Involuntary eyebrow flashing when you enter the room. The eyebrow flash is a universal, micro-expression that lasts for just a fraction of a second, yet it carries immense psychological weight. When a man suddenly sees someone he likes or finds highly attractive, his eyebrows will instantly raise and lower in a quick, fleeting motion. This involuntary muscle spasm is a subconscious human reflex that opens the eyes wider, allowing the brain to take in a clearer, more comprehensive view of the person. It is a biological recognition signal of pleasure and extreme interest that happens way too fast for the conscious mind to intercept or suppress. Because it occurs in the blink of an eye, it requires close attention to catch, but it is an incredibly genuine reaction. He cannot fake it, and he cannot stop it from happening the exact moment you enter his field of vision, signaling immediate internal excitement, flushed cheeks and nervous perspiration. When a man is around someone who makes his heart race, his endocrine system immediately kicks into high gear, releasing adrenaline into his bloodstream. This sudden adrenaline spike causes his heart rate to accelerate rapidly and his blood vessels to dilate, leading to a visible rush of blood to the surface of his skin. This manifests as an uncontrollable flush or blush across his cheeks, ears, and neck. Simultaneously, the emotional stress of wanting to make a good impression activates his sweat glands, resulting in nervous perspiration, particularly on his palms or forehead. He might try his absolute best to look cool, calm, and collected, but these blatant, autonomic responses completely betray his internal panic and excitement. These physical symptoms are completely outside of his voluntary control, serving as an undeniable, organic reaction to the intense, emotional and physical chemistry he experiences whenever you are nearby. Immediate verbal stumbling and loss of eloquence. When a man is around someone he deeply likes, the rush of adrenaline and dopamine temporarily disrupts the prefrontal cortex, the area of the brain responsible for cognitive control and language processing. Suddenly, a man who is usually witty, articulate, and confident might begin to stutter, lose his train of thought mid-sentence, or struggle to find basic words. He is so consumed with the desire to make a flawless impression and so overstimulated by your presence that his conscious mind overrides his natural speech flow. This verbal clumsiness is an entirely involuntary reaction to emotional overwhelm. He might try to cover it up with a nervous laugh or by changing the subject, but the sudden drop in his usual eloquence completely betrays his composure, serving as a clear psychological indicator that you have entirely knocked him off his balance. Micro-expressions of genuine delight, the Duchenne smile. Unlike a polite, forced smile that only involves the muscles around the mouth, a genuine smile of delight, known scientifically as the Duchenne smile, is completely uncontrollable. When a man sees you, the spontaneous joy he experiences triggers the involuntary contraction of the orbicularis oculi muscles around his eyes. This causes his cheeks to lift, his eyes to crinkle into crow's feet, and his gaze to soften instantly. A man can easily fake a smile with his lips to appear polite, but he cannot consciously force the distinct eye crinkle of a true Duchenne smile. This fleeting micro-expression happens automatically within milliseconds of making eye contact with you. Even if he is trying to play it cool or hide his attraction, this specific facial reflex provides an honest, unfiltered glimpse directly into his subconscious happiness the moment you are near. The protective instinct, spontaneous postural shifts. The urge to protect a romantic interest is a primal, evolutionary response deeply embedded in male biology. When you are close by, his subconscious mind shifts into a protective mode, triggering spontaneous and uncontrollable changes in his posture. He will automatically puff out his chest, square his shoulders, and stand taller to appear more dominant and capable of offering safety. Furthermore, if you are walking together in a crowded area or crossing a busy street, his body will instinctively position itself between you and any potential hazard, or crowd flow without him even realizing it. These subtle, protective movements are driven entirely by an ancient, biological script rather than conscious calculation. He cannot stop his body from trying to shield you, making these subtle postural shifts a definitive sign of his deep-seated, instinctual investment in your well-being. Subconscious fidgeting and preening, fixing hair or clothes. Preening is an involuntary grooming ritual shared by humans and animals alike, triggered by a sudden surge of self-consciousness when a desirable mate appears. The moment you enter his space, his nervous energy will manifest as restless physical movements. He will uncontrollably fix his hair, adjust his collar, smooth down his shirt, or check his watch. These actions are performed entirely on autopilot, as his subconscious mind frantically tries to ensure he looks his absolute best for you. Alongside this grooming behavior, you might notice him fidgeting with nearby objects, like spinning his phone or tapping his glass. This displacement behavior is the body's natural way of venting the intense, pent-up nervous excitement caused by your presence, proving that he is deeply affected by you and entirely unable to sit still. Prolonged, intense gaze followed by sudden eye darting. The visual cortex is highly sensitive to things we desire, creating a powerful pull that makes it incredibly difficult for a man to look away from someone he loves. You will often catch him staring at you with an intense, prolonged gaze when he thinks you aren't paying attention. However, the moment your eyes meet his conscious awareness kicks in, causing a sudden panic reflex. He will instantly dart his eyes away, look down at his phone, or abruptly scan the room to avoid getting caught. This rapid, jerky eye movement is a classic, uncontrollable flight or fight response to being exposed. He desperately wants to look at you because his brain finds the visual stimulus highly rewarding, but his fear of revealing his vulnerability forces the clumsy, sudden break in eye contact, perfectly exposing his hidden infatuation. Leaning inward involuntarily during conversations. When a man is deeply attracted to you, his body naturally defies the boundaries of casual personal space through a phenomenon known as positive physical orientation. During a conversation, his subconscious mind prioritizes your voice and presence above all else in the room, causing him to lean his upper body, head, and shoulders distinctly toward you. Even in a noisy environment where leaning in might seem practical, he will do so to an extreme degree, minimizing the physical distance between you. This forward tilt is an instinctual movement, driven by the brain's desire to seek proximity to a high-value stimulus. He cannot easily restrain this pull. His body simply reacts as if drawn by a magnet. This subtle, constant forward lean demonstrates that he is completely locked into your world, creating an intimate, private bubble that completely excludes the rest of the surrounding environment. Throat clearing or voice pitch alterations. The emotional tension and excitement of being near a romantic interest have a direct, physiological impact on a man's vocal cords and respiratory system. When you are close, the sudden rush of adrenaline can cause his throat muscles to tighten and his salivary glands to temporarily slow down, leading to an involuntary dry throat that forces him to clear his throat frequently. Simultaneously, his vocal pitch will undergo subconscious alterations. Psychological studies show that men unconsciously drop their voice to a lower, deeper, and more resonant tone when speaking directly to a woman they desire, which is an evolutionary trait designed to project masculinity and warmth. Conversely, if he gets hit with a wave of nervous excitement, his pitch might briefly spike higher. He has zero conscious control over these acoustic shifts, making his vocal fluctuations a dead giveaway. Magnetic proximity, always gravity pulling into your personal space. Propinquity or magnetic proximity describes the uncontrollable urge to physically gravitate toward the person you desire. In any social setting, group gathering, or casual hangout, you will find that he consistently and inexplicably ends up standing or sitting right next to you. If a group is walking down a street, his pace will automatically adjust to match yours precisely. If people are mingling in a room, his path will continuously loop back to your vicinity. This behavior is entirely driven by his subconscious mind, which views proximity to you as a primary reward. He isn't consciously plotting these movements. His internal compass simply steers his steps toward your orbit. This constant, gravity-like pulling into your personal space is a powerful physical manifestation of an emotional attachment that he cannot seem to override or contain. Flaring nostrils or deep inhalation to take in your scent. Olfaction plays a massive, often underestimated role in human attraction and mate selection. When a man is close to a woman he likes, His body instinctively attempts to gather pheromones and chemical data to assess biological compatibility. This triggers an involuntary widening or flaring of the nostrils, accompanied by deep, subtle inhalations when he is within your personal space. He might disguise this by taking a deep breath to calm his nerves or by adjusting his posture, but the fundamental reflex is entirely biological. His brain is craving the sensory input of your natural scent or perfume because it triggers a pleasurable response in his limbic system. This primal, scent-seeking reflex happens completely on autopilot, serving as a raw, evolutionary indicator that his body is deeply and uncontrollably drawn to your physical presence, overreacting and laughing instinctively at your weakest jokes. Humor is one of the most reliable social barometers for romantic interest, and a man's laughter around you is highly revealing. When he is infatuated, his brain is already primed with feel-good chemicals, placing him in a hyper-receptive emotional state. As a result, his threshold for amusement drops drastically whenever you speak. He will uncontrollably burst into genuine laughter or offer an enthusiastic smile at your casual remarks, playful teasers, or even your corniest jokes, things that others might only respond to with a polite chuckle. This overreaction is an involuntary mechanism to build safety, validate you, and prolong the positive interaction. He cannot fake the immediate, explosive nature of this laughter. It is a spontaneous release of his pent-up nervous energy and happiness, proving that you hold immense sway over his emotional state.